The future television network. Could it happen? The following is a compilation of what could prove to be extremely pertinent information regarding the near future. There are several key predictions that seem to be coalescing, and it is highly doubtful that this election will have more bark than bites, unfortunately. No, this is an historic election, and many are saying that on election day we'll only be beginning to scratch the surface. Cliff High, a former consultant for several Fortune 500 companies, wrote an advanced computer program in the early 90s that forages for certain types of information on the internet. The program sends out little web bots to forage for certain types of information and return the data to him. It then presents the information in patterns or sets that he has learned over time to interpret and to make future predictions based upon what the wealth of information gathered is indicating. The program itself is not inherently predictive, but think of it as a sort of Doppler radar of internet sentiment. Cliff ran his first dataset in 1997. In a January 2016 interview with Leak Project, Cliff went into great detail about how it actually works. At the time of the writing of this entry, the interview could be found on youtube.com, posted by user Leak Project, with the title Cliff High Webbot Report 2016 Predictions, Nuclear Fallout, Megaquakes, Epidemics, Weather Wars. They touch on many different subjects in the interview, but several times Cliff describes different aspects of the way the program works. He also notes that interpreting the information isn't that easy, and does not at all claim all the predictions have proven accurate. Nevertheless, I've heard Cliff and several others express surprise at how many of the predictions actually have proven correct. The information presented below was publicly available directly from Cliff via his YouTube channel, Cliff High. That's the name of the channel. And one small snippet from a late October 2016 interview with Greg Hunter. His channel is just simply Greg Hunter. What has been emerging from the data sets regarding the period from November 2016 through mid-2017 lines up in several very important ways with what many of the most objective and learned economic pundits have been saying, and even some true seers, if you will. That is, those who can somehow see some of what will happen in the future.
Before we proceed, a word of caution. Please do not regard any information presented in this entry as medicinal, legal, tax or investment advice. Check in with each of your own professional consultants as appropriate. These presented are opinions and may or may not represent the opinions of the presenter unless otherwise stated. Also, everyone's situation is different, and, as a wise turtle once said, one often meets his destiny on the path he takes to avoid it. Caveat emptor.
The predictions presented are not 100% certain to happen. It simply caught my attention when I found that some of the predictions facilitated by massive amounts of web data gathered and sorted by digital robots corroborated what several others have been predicting, whether predictive economic trends, real-time geopolitical occurrences, pure revelation from another realm, or a sixth sense. I realized several of the predictions, in the spirit of webbots and the Matrix, I like to call them machine predictions, are strikingly similar to those that have been made by others, some of which also tie in very closely with biblical prophecy and or with what some know to be true about history and current events. But some of that, well, I should say a lot of it, is not necessarily common knowledge. So what I'm saying is what some people know to be true about history and current events, a lot of it is not common knowledge. A lot of it is just what we've been fed by some propaganda machine at one point in our history, or what we're being fed right now by the propaganda machine, the prostitutes, some call them, the lamestream media, as others say. For instance, the truth about central bankers, there are the merchants of Babylon. The truth about war, including the petrodollar wars, most recently Ukraine and Syria. And I mean, look at what's going on in North Dakota These people are insane. Anyway, let me not get off too much on that, but I just believe it's valuable to look purely at the synergy created by the various types of predictive information presented here. And when I say here, what I'm talking about specifically is Cliff High and several others, as I mentioned earlier, commentators who are not even looking at the same material. They're not connected. It's just so many. It's just sort of a meeting of minds that has been taking place. Anyway, let's just jump right in. Here's one machine prediction interpreted and presented by Cliff High.
Electoral confusion, not electoral votes, so not a repeat of Gore/Bush selection process with hanging chads, etc. Trump wins by an overwhelming landslide relative to recent elections, but it won't make any difference, we'll still go into massive confusion. Datasets have confusion as being the dominating descriptor for the post-election period.
Many believe that the globalists will do whatever it takes to stop a Trump presidency. There are some who believe Trump is controlled opposition, but that is highly doubtful, though not impossible. Rob Kirby of Kirby Analytics stated in a recent interview,
whether or not the globalists will allow Trump to actually ascend to the presidency should he win, let's just say there's a growing sentiment amongst people that I talk to who are engaged in commentating on financial issues, geopolitical issues. I would say there's a growing consensus that the globalists will likely, we say, flip the tables over before there would be allowed to be an election result where Trump would win.
On this front, it is well worth a student of history's time, and we should all be students of history at least to some degree, to read or listen to one of John F. Kennedy's last speeches in which he clearly addressed secret societies and their monolithic and ruthless conspiracy. Those are his words, monolithic and ruthless conspiracy. This is the globalist conspiracy that, as far as we can tell, Trump and Vladimir Putin are standing against. Remember what the machine predictions interpreted by Cliff High indicated around the time of the election. Electoral confusion after Trump wins by a landslide. What matter? The impetus of that is that the reality is a Trump landslide win, but that is not what is necessarily reported to the public. So that is very interesting, and it is completely 100% possible because of what has already been brought to light about the use of fake voters, dead or alive, brought in by buses to who knows how many places, given a pack of cigarettes and $50 or whatever it takes, and various other nefarious means of voter and or voter machine fraud. We have already seen a lot of evidence of these things. Is it true a lot of it is in Microsoft Access and can be changed at the time of upload by whatever county assessor or whatever third-party vendor is in charge of the voting machine numbers at any point along the supply chain? Is it true George Soros has a significant stake in the company that owns the voting machines in many US states? I don't know, but I would not be surprised. It probably is true based on everything we know for a fact. Now, I want to pursue some information that has been made available by another source and from a completely different perspective, which in light of what we just heard on the machine predictions is extremely interesting. However, before we segue into this next section, I need to point out that I'm certainly not an advocate for following personal astrology, but I do believe that important historic events were literally written in the heavens by the Creator. Indeed, it is how a group of men from ancient Persia who were reading and interpreting the stars and planetary alignments knew of a great king to come before his birth, and even where he would be born. This was, of course, Jesus Christ. We also have an interesting example of a heavenly pattern in the book of Revelation, signaling an epic event in human history that could be unfolding towards the end of this year on the Hebrew calendar, which interestingly enough is the year 5777. But we can't even go there right now. Just listen to this clip of Revelation 12.
Chapter 12. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars.
This has been shown by another gentleman named Steve Cioccolanti, I believe, of Discover Ministries. You can go check out his videos. Just search on YouTube for Woman 12 Stars, Revelation 12, and I think you'll pull it up. But we just can't even go there right now. I just wanted to tell you about that, and it does appear that that planetary alignment is happening at the end of the Hebrew year that we're in right now, which is 5777, and the end of that Hebrew year is late September 2017. Just a side note for now. But let me just say this as well. Some historians believe that who many call the wise men or the three kings were actually, in a way, kingmakers. Joni Patry is someone I suspect may have some insights that are not unlike those gleaned by the kingmakers we know of in the biblical record. That is, the men who came out of Syria searching for Jesus. She has revealed that there is a very similar planetary alignment taking place on New Year's Day 2017 to that which was in place on September 11th, 2001. Now, of course, keep in mind that New Year's Day 2017 is in between Election Day and Inauguration Day. And she has revealed, again, just to reiterate, that there is a very similar planetary alignment taking place on New Year's Day 2017 to that which was in place on September 11th, 2001. And it is an alignment, she says, that signals very big events. When I heard that, I thought of the very strange occurrence of Hillary collapsing on 9/11/2016 and having to be helped into a van before leaving the scene. And that I believe she was there as a representative of the criminal global elite, more specifically of the Bush-Clinton crime syndicate that works in partnership with communist, Nazi, and globalist agendas, which are all one at heart. Wow. Following is another excerpt from Joni Patry, who discusses how, for all intents and purposes, it appears that Hillary will certainly be the next president. But
and here's what I think could possibly be the outcome. Hillary will probably be elected, although something in the charts are saying no. So I'm thinking she'll probably be disqualified by the facts and the huge events that are about to come down a week after the elections. So this is all about to change, and the truth is about to come out, which will change the course of where you think everything is going. So do I think Hillary Clinton will be the president of the United States? I predicted that yes, but something's telling me from the charts, no. So that is why, through all of my past videos, to be honest with you, I didn't know who was going to be president. And I still have the charts telling me, you know, Donald Trump, there's something big that he is here to present to the world. And there is going to be this enormous change. I've been talking about this for over the last 2 years. So watch and see if these elections don't change the global perspective of the United States and the positions of these candidates. What you think and what you believe, it's all about to change. Hillary Clinton will be elected, but there's going to be a turn of events that will probably disqualify her to serve as president. Now, I might think that something's going to happen at the polls that's going to shift everything from Hillary. So watch, be prepared. There are huge and enormous changes about to occur.
my take on the election is that it will take an act of God to get Trump in the White House, even though he clearly has a large majority, and very likely an overwhelming majority. Acts of God, though, are not at all impossible. On the other hand, there is a slight possibility Trump could be the ultimate wolf in sheep's clothing, some touting him as the only solution to world peace and all that. I highly doubt that's the case. Yet if he wins the election and sails into the White House without a serious fight, likely some sort of false flag event like a Russian cyber attack or election interference, or even possibly a World War III trigger event, I'll be slightly more concerned about the possibility that it was all a front and nothing more than a meticulously carried out manifestation of the Hegelian dialectic. So what I mean by all of that is that if he sails in, Trump, that is, into the White House and there's, not much trouble at all, then me personally, I'll be a little more concerned that maybe the whole thing was kind of like, good cop, bad cop deal. That's not to say, people cannot be corrupted or coerced once they get into a certain position and or removed. But I just don't think that's the case. I don't think that Trump is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Okay, onwards and upwards. Next machine prediction.
Multiple data sets indicate Trump wins, Hillary is missing, doesn't matter because confusion reigns. Deep state, according to Cliff, entrenched government that is not elected, including civil servants, appointed officials, government subcontractors who get paid out the public's wallet or Fed Reserve created money. Again, deep state and shadow government are both active, may both be pro-Hillary, but that isn't confirmed.
Funnily enough, Rob Kirby also brought up a point about Hillary being gone for 20 days leading up to the election and how unheard of that is. I personally don't know what the deal is on her being out of commission, so to speak, for a while after the last debate. But I do know Trump has been very active, but not much is heard about what Hillary is actually doing, though the prostitutes, of course, would not bring that out. On the deep state and shadow government, let's not even go there right now, except to say that essentially it's the modern-day Babylon system spoken of in Revelation and elsewhere. Next few.
1. Data sets since 2002 indicate mass confusion, then compounded caused by the bursting of the debt bubble, which is caused by foreign repatriation of dollars as a result of fractured politics and collapse of faith in the U.S. by foreign investing entities, as well as the loss of faith in central banks and fiat money. Crash is predicted to be in early November, very shortly after the election. 2. Two-thirds of all USD are out of the country. The Federal Reserve will not be able to stave it off because of the flood of dollars coming in. 3. Major deflationary bent that occurs in late November 2016 and continues through February 2017, followed by an impact on the asset bubbles during Feb/March. So perhaps a market crash could be drawn out between November 2016 and March 2017. Costs of housing and cars will fall, but costs of everything else, food, clothing, and living expenses, will skyrocket because nobody will want to take dollars and there will be flood in the supply of dollars as well, domestically. 4. Dow likely, but not certain, to fall below 10,000 between November and March, then increase rapidly to 125,000 because of rampant money printing, inflation, and Fed purchasing of securities.
Many awake individuals of several different worldviews have noted the actions of central banks and secret societies over the last 400 years, especially with regard to the colonies, most notably the 13 colonies of North America that would eventually become the USA, and how the world appears to now be at the precipice of a semi-controlled collapse. There are several economic pundits who have expressed expectations aligning with concurrent cycles of deflation and inflation, with deflation in the short term for larger ticket items such as cars and homes, yet continued inflation for items needed for survival, such as food, clothing, and so forth. This, some say, will be followed by hyperinflation on all prices. Knowing that several of the world's central banks have been involved with massive money printing since 2008, it's surprising we haven't seen much more inflation yet. One important reason for that, though, is the global use of the dollar. Another is the fact that much of the additional money is not actually in circulation. Even financial market analysts who purely watch charts are claiming that the charts of multiple indices are indicating weakness in the markets and that there is very likely to be a small correction in the short term and a much larger correction by the end of the first quarter of 2017. Soon I'll also be posting some other machine predictions that tie in spookingly closely with prophecies by John Paul Jackson. Stay tuned.